Hi, soulmates. Welcome back to Eleganza TV. My name is Eunice, and today I will be recreating this style. If you want to see how I made this dress, then do keep on watching. And if you're yet to subscribe to the channel, please hit on the subscribe button and let's get right into it. So to make this dress, I made use of 6 yards of Ankara fabric. The dress has a bustier with tiny strap and side gathers. So I have my pattern paper because I'll be drafting the bustier on my pattern paper first of all. So on the pattern paper, I ruled a straight line. And for this pattern, I will not be taking the basic bodice. I will just be taking out my off shoulder. So I first of all took out 6 inches for my off shoulder. Then I went ahead to mark my bust point, my under bust, and my half length. So I'm taking out 6 inches, which is my half shoulder length. Then after marking my bust point, my under bust, and my half length, I went ahead to rule a straight line. To connect all the points together. So having done that, I labeled all the line, my chest line, my bust point, my under bust, and my half length. Then the next thing I went ahead to do was to take my nipple to nipple and divide it into two, which is also known as my bust span. So I took the point on my bust point line all the way through to my half length. Then I'll use my straight ruler to connect the 3 points together like so. So for my chest line, I'll measure what I have on my bust point line and I'll bring it to the chest line. Then I'll add 1 inch to it. So this is going to make the bustier have a fine shape. So after doing that, I'll connect the 2 points together like so. So let's move on to the dart on the under bust. On the center front, I'll be marking 1 inch, which is the smaller part. Then on the side part, I'll go out by 1.5 inch. So 1 inch on the center front and 1.5 inch on the side part. Then on the half length, I marked 0.75 on the center front and 1 inch on the side part. So after doing that, I connected the 2 points together like this. So after doing that, I made the line visible using my marker. Then the next thing I'm going to do is use my curved ruler to connect the two dots on the under bust to my bust point line. So next on the chest line, I'll take 1 inch on both sides of the line, which is going to be the dart for the chest line. Then I'll use my curved ruler to connect that to my bust point line. So guys, after getting the bustier shape like this, next you're going to take the off shoulder measurement. So you're going to place your tape around your off shoulder point and measure the wideness. So after doing that, I had 44 inches. So whatever you have, you're going to divide it by 8 and that gives me 5.5. So after marking the point, I replace the 2 inch dart that I have on the chest line. Then after doing that, I'll be marking my arm side length. So I took out the 6 inches for my off shoulder and I measured 8 inches for my arm side length. So I connected the line like this to form a square. Then after doing that, in between the angle, I came out by 1 inch to form a curve. So then I placed my curved ruler to connect from the side part to where my armhole starts. So the next thing to do now is to take my body measurements. So where the armhole stops, I took my bust measurement divided by 4. And then on the half length, I measured my round waist divided by 4. Then I replaced the dart that I have on the under bust to my half length. So after doing that, I connected the 2 points together for my bust measurement to my half length. So before going ahead to cut out the pattern, I want to first of all take my bust dart. So the bust dart is 1.5 inch for me, which is the difference between my front and my back half length. So after marking that point, I connected to my bust point line like so. So because of the fact that I don't have much allowance on the side part of my pattern, I will not be adding the sewing allowance yet. When I cut it out and place in my fabric, that's when I'll add my sewing allowance. Then on the chest line, I came down by half an inch because I wanted the front to have like a curved neckline. I don't want it to be straight. So after doing that now, I'll be cutting out my pattern. So guys, after cutting out my darts for the bustier, I closed the side bust dart. Then after doing that, I'll be connecting the line on the side part like this. So after cutting, this is what I have it looking like. On the side part of the bustier, I came in a bit because I want to curve it to have like a good curve because it is looking pointy. So I went ahead to blend the line, then I cut out the excess from it. So we are done with the front bustier pattern. Now let's move on to the back. So for the back pattern, I first of all roll a straight line, and then I took out 6 inches, which is going to be for my off shoulder. Then I went ahead to measure my half length for the back. So note that the difference between my front and my back half length was 1.5 inch. So whatever I had on my front half length, I removed 1.5 inch from it to get the back half length. So guys, after doing that, I measured my zipper allowance of 1.5 inches. Then I connected the points together. So after doing that, you're going to measure your off shoulder measurements horizontally. So the off shoulder measurement, like I said, is whatever you measure as your round off shoulder divided by 8. So I had 5.5 inches. So after marking the 5.5 inches, I took out my 6 inches. Then I measured my arm cycle length of 8 inches, which is the same thing I did for the front. So after connecting the armhole curve, I want to give my back neckline some kind of style. So I want it to have a V neckline. So I came down by 1 inch from the top. Then I extended to my zipper allowance. And after doing that, I connected to form a V shape. So after doing that now, I'll be taking my body measurements. From the zipper allowance, I measured my bust divided by 4. Then on my half length, I measured my round waist divided by 4. And then I added 1 inch for that allowance. So after doing that, I connected to my bust point like this. So this is how your back is going to be. So to measure the dart, you're going to measure what you have on your actual back measurement and divide it into 2. So after doing that, I use my straight ruler to just rule out my chest line, which is where my armhole stops. So what I measured for my dart point on my half length, I measured the same thing on my chest line. Then I ruled the 2 points to form a straight line like this. So I came down by 1 inch from that chest line, which is where my dart is going to stop. Then on both sides of the line, I measured 0.5 inch, which is the 1 inch dart allowance I took on the side part. So I connected the 2 points together like this. So the last thing I need to do is to remove zipper bulge from my back pattern. So on my zipper allowance, I came in by 0.5 inch, and I'll be cutting it out from my zipper allowance. So I'll go ahead to replace the half an inch I took from the zipper allowance to the side parts, and then I'll connect that to my bust measurements. So after doing that, this is what I have my back pattern looking like. So I went ahead to just mark out the zipper allowance so you can see how it looks. I came in by 1.5 inch and connected to form my zipper allowance. So this is how it's going to be. So I'll go ahead to cut out the pattern now. So this is what the front and the back pattern looks like. So let's move on to the down part of the gown. So for the skirt part, I first of all took out my half length of 18 inches. Then I measured the full length of my gown. So what I have on the pattern is not long enough. So I'll be adding an extra 4 inches to complete the length on my material. So next I'm going to mark my waist to hip measurement. And my waist to hip measurement is 8 inches. So after marking that point, I'll be using my straight ruler to connect together to form a straight line. Then I labeled the lines my waistline and my hip line. So on my waistline, I took my round waist divided by 4 with 1 inch for that. And my hip length, I took my round hip measurement divided by 4. Then after doing that, I connected the both points together from my waistline to my hip line. Then after connecting the both points, I used my straight ruler to connect from my hip measurement straight down to my full length. So guys, I just took note that this part that I'm cutting is going to be the front and it is going to be on fold. Then I'll also place the same pattern to cut out the back, and the difference is just going to be the zipper allowance. Then after doing that, I went ahead to mark my darts. So I used the Bustier half length to mark the dart points. Or you can just take your bust span measurements divided by 2. So after marking that, I went ahead to mark my dart by taking 0.5 inch on both sides, and then I measured the length to be 4 inches. So having done that, next thing I did was to measure down 5 inches from my waistline on the side part. Then after doing that, I'm going to connect my dart's length straight down to my full length like this. So after doing that, on the hem I came in by 3 inches, and then I'm just going to connect that point to the darts and then connect to form a curve to the side parts. So guys, this is what I have it looking like. Now I'll use my marker to make it visible. So before I go ahead to cut out the skirt pattern, I'll go ahead to rule some lines on that curved part that I will slash and spread to get that side gathers design. So after doing that, I proceeded to cut in my pattern, and then next I will show you how to place your pattern on your fabric. So guys, as you can see on that curved part, I put some arrows to indicate the top and the side part, and also on the side part I also draw a box that is going to indicate that it will be on fold, and I'm cutting into two. So guys, right here I've gone ahead to cut my front pattern, the bustier part. I cut the center part on fold, and I added half an inch on the other side. Then for the side part I used my sewing allowance of 2 inches. Then I also cut on my lining the same way, and I added hairstay to the main fabric. Then for the down part I cut it on fold, then I added half an inch around all the side. Then on the side part I used my sewing allowance of 1.5 inch. So on the bottom I completed the full length of the gown, and I added my 4 inches that I said I wanted to add to it. Okay, so this is for the front part. So for the back half length I added half an inch all around it, except for the side that I used my sewing allowance of 2 inches. I also cut the same thing on my lining. Then for the skirt part I added my zipper allowance and cut with half an inch. So this is what I have it looking like. So before taking out my pattern, I'm going to notch the dart points for the half length and also for the skirt part. So guys, for this other part I went ahead to slash the lines, all the lines that I drew. Then I'll be placing on my fabric to spread it wide. So guys, I folded the remaining piece of fabric that I have into four, and then I spread the pattern that I have according to the numbers. You can see that I labeled the numbers 1 2 3 4. So guys, you can see that I spread it to have like a flare shape. Okay, then also on the bottom I increased the length with the 4 inches that I said I want to add to the bottom of my pattern. So this is what I have it looking like. Okay, so guys, this is where we're going to stop for the cutting video. If you want to see the sewing tutorial, let me know in the comments, and also do well to like, share and subscribe to the channel if you're yet to. See you in the next one.